I will begin with a confession. Until fairly recently, I too didn't understand the word nonce. I'd heard it occasionally, in fact I'd used it occasionally in childhood, often in Lincolnshire, where it was tossed around rather lightly, meaning little more than an idiot or a fool. I knew it in computing too, where nonce is a number used once, a cryptographic safety check. I also knew of the linguistic term nonce, a nonce word, a word coined for a single occasion, for the nonce. But I didn't grasp the degree to which in modern British slang, especially since the 1990s, the word has hardened into a very precise and very ugly meaning, a prison yard epithet for child sex offenders. In that sense, it is one of the vilest terms in the English language, a word whose mere utterance is incendiary. And so we come to Hartsmere. At a council meeting, Jeremy Newmark, the Labour leader, denounced Operation Raise the Colours, a flag-waving campaign that has been linked to far-right activism, as an attempt by a bunch of criminals, extremists and nonces to hijack our national flag. Gasps followed, as well they might. Now, first of all, the flag-raising thing, whether it was devised by far-right people, a lot of the people who've been raising flags are not far-right at all. They're simply people who are proud to be British, and there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I don't see any problem with raising flags, and I think councils should accommodate that, or indeed raise more flags themselves. If there are not enough flags around, put up more. Put out the flags. Put out the bunting. We need a little bit of unity. And from that point of view, I suppose Tommy Robinson's effort to unite the kingdom is not a bad call. But councils across the country can unite the kingdom, and flags are a great way of doing so. We shouldn't be leaving it to people to be slapping them on lampposts and painting them on roundabouts. This is absurd. But Jeremy Newmark went too far, because whatever Newmark may have meant, and perhaps something closer to my Lincolnshire idiot usage, the contemporary ear, I think today, hears only the prison yard slur. To accuse political opponents of being nonces is not merely an insult, it's an allegation of the most serious kind. It's defamatory, it's toxic, and it cannot be passed off as rough banter. It illustrates two wider points. First, that words shift meaning, and nonce began life in Middle English, simply meaning for the once, for the occasion. Chaucer used it with complete innocence. By the mid-20th century, regional dialects used it for good for nothing. By the 1970s, apparently, in prisons it became the pariah label, and from there it spread into the wider culture. And when words mutate like this, the speaker must keep pace with their transformation. Some politicians must be exceptionally careful. Words are their trade. And so if you are a politician with a public profile, in fact, even if you're not, all politicians should be careful. That is their job. To use an archaic or a dialect meaning when the dominant modern meaning is so vicious is to invite disaster. One cannot plead ignorance. One cannot hide behind etymology. Leadership demands linguistic awareness. Now, it may be that Newmark's anger was directed at the genuine extremists who exploit patriotic symbols for diverse ends. That is a legitimate concern. Hope Not Hate, for instance, has tracked far-right groups behind such flag campaigns, but the choice of word has drowned out the substance of the argument. The story is no longer about extremists misusing flags, but about a Labour leader hurling a taboo insult. Conservative opponents have demanded his resignation, cited division and disrespect, and Newmark has apologised, saying his words were misinterpreted. But here is the reality. In politics, perception matters as much as intention. To the public ear, nonce no longer means fool. It means something far darker. And this episode is, in miniature, a parable about language and power. Words carry histories with them, sometimes longer and heavier than we realise. Misjudge them and you hand your opponents a weapon. Understand them and you wield authority with precision. So perhaps the real lesson is this: if you are in public life, never assume a word still means what it meant in your childhood. Check, double check, and if in doubt, use another word for language. Like politics is unforgiving, and sometimes one misplaced word can unravel an argument more completely than any opponent.